The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
And welcome to The Factor Uncensored. It's Thursday night. You might be planning on what to do this whole weekend. You better enjoy it now because the cost to hit the town and eat your favorite dish at your favorite restaurant is about to go a hell of a lot more expensive. Go way up. We have a panel of industry experts to explain why you have to cough up more money. Take a look. And our guests are joining us here now on The Factor Uncensored. Let's begin with Marcus Davis, the owner of The Breakfast Club here in Houston. Obviously, you know, we have seen food shortages, supply and demand because of the pandemic. What are you experiencing at your restaurant, and how does this affect the trickle-down effect? How does this affect the customer, Marcus?
Well, I'm experiencing just what you described, meaning there is a shortage all the way around. If it's not the supply of wings or the price of my chicken oil doubling, then it's a shortage in labor at one of the factories that supplies a product that delays the product from getting in. Everything from one day we had lemonade, we could sell you lemonade, but with no top because the tops didn't come in on the truck. So it's across the board. How is it affecting the customer? One, it may prevent the customer from being able to get a particular product at a particular time that they desire, and that's a no-no because, you know, we believe if it's on the menu, that it should be in the house, but we're asking guests to understand. Fortunately, you know, our purveyors and my guys in-house have been able to work real hard to get us ahead to keep us from being backed up. How else does it affect? It affects the menu price and the pocketbook. You know, entrepreneurs, restaurateurs who were damaged by the pandemic cannot survive in business if they don't make the accommodations, the necessary changes on the menu in order to stay afloat and to flourish, especially since we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So it hits the bottom line at the bottom line.
And Megan McSwain from Houstonian Magazine also joins us here on The Factor. Obviously, Megan, we have seen a lot of businesses, mainly restaurants in the Houston area, dozens of them shut down because of, number one, not having the resources to maintain during the pandemic, also shortages and a lack of employees. What are you seeing as a journalist out there?
You're right. I mean, it has been really heartbreaking to see this past year how many closures there's been. And I think there is a little bit of a disconnect from visitors of restaurants and what's actually happening behind the scenes. Like you mentioned before, when there's a shortage of things, you know, guests will go somewhere else. And that one meal that restaurant could have, you know, served that one guest or 5 guests or 10 guests really makes a difference. And so that's why we're seeing so many closures. And then not to mention, you know, not getting break on rent or their real estate costs. So there's so many factors beyond just empty restaurants that that contribute to this. And it's just really hard to see because, you know, Houston is just made up of this fabulous culinary scene. And, you know, I hope that it's turning around, and I feel like some of those restaurants that, you know, have closed down, maybe they'll re-emerge somewhere else, maybe in a better location for them at a time that works for them. There's also some new places that are opening that have come out of this ordeal, but it's constantly changing.
Is it kind of questionable or risky to open now without knowing the landscape after the pandemic, or actually we're still in the pandemic?
Sure.
Is it risky at all, Megan, for these businesses to be opening now?
I was going to say, you know, we're still in it. So of course the risk is high now because look at what's happening. I mean, we think we're vaccinated, everything's fine. Now we're talking about a Delta variant. So things are still changing and we're definitely in the middle of it. But I do think that there are opportunities for some restaurateurs, for example, to find a space that maybe belonged to someone else before, and you know, it's a good time real estate wise to get in there and open something that they've had on their mind for a long time. So I think it can go either way. I think that there's restaurateurs who have maybe better resources that are able to take those risks. I think it's a little bit harder for the small mom and pop shops to take those risks right now, not knowing what's going to happen the rest of this year or next year. So yeah, I think that's, a double-edged sword right there.
And Marcus, you wanted to chime in, right?
Yeah, well, because you hit the nail on the head. And I know it was a slip of the tongue, but there are a lot of people that are under the impression that that the pandemic is over. And when I say that, I'm talking about everybody from landlords to vendors to even municipalities, the state government, federal government, believing that everything's okay now, so we can get back to paying us the way you normally do, and that's just not the truth.
Dietrich von Biedenfeld from the University of Houston downtown. What's the outlook?
The outlook is still positive. What we know with a lot of research, like the bullwhip effect, that this demand forecasting can be uncertain. And as they both mentioned, there are certain considerations related to pandemic, inflation concerns, worker shortages, distribution network challenges. We live in a global supply chain now, and so anytime you've got closures of certain countries, we're not able to efficiently move those resources. And of course, while some people will tell you there isn't a shortage of truck drivers, there is a shortage of long-haul truck drivers. So again, there's that context is key. Those specific skill sets within the trucking industry that are lacking, the supply chain has to readjust like they did when people started going to grocery stores more. And now we're having to readjust to 100% reopen, that pandemic fatigue, where people are really taxing the resources of restaurants. Restaurants are having to re-examine their contracts and try to adjust to this increased demand by people eating out again. Again, those packaging resources for to-go containers and things like that we weren't considering when there were stay-at-home orders. So there are a number of factors in this complex supply chain, but a lot of this could be resolved or at least supported in the short term with legislation as we move forward.
Now, that legislation Marcus talked about is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. It was part of a previous COVID relief bill, but it has run out. You can reach out to your congressperson if you want to help support your local restaurants by telling them to reinstate it.